feel sort of exhausted, but also just I feel like I want to bookmark this moment for myself in a way. And part of me thinks, should I just be keeping this to myself? And maybe, but I'm not really sure if that's just because earlier when I was watching a spiritual teacher saying that if you're retelling your challenges and issues, it's for like outside validation, and therefore it's a false expression. I don't know, because I can't fully embody or integrate what he's saying there yet, I guess I'm still gonna do it, and I'll figure it out later if that's the truth or not. Just part of me feels also like I want to document this process that I'm going through, and along the way of this process of like, maybe I would call it purifying, or maybe I would call it remembering, or maybe I would call it unfolding or expanding consciousness. But whatever I call it, it falls short because words fall short. But anyway, through the process of what I've been going through, there have been times where like I cannot articulate afterwards. I can't even recall the details of how it unfolded or what brought my breakthrough forward. I'm just going to have to trust that at those times that it wasn't that important. I kind of feel like leaving a breadcrumb trail. I just do. So that's what I'm doing. And today has been such a huge spiritually moving day. And not just spiritually moving, but emotion moving, enlightening, shifting, transformative day. Ginger beer. I tried this. It's just so delicious. So I'm going to sip on this. Talk. It will also soothe my throat a little bit. So last night, I was feeling rather overwhelmed by my whole process and journey. Not really like that. That's the wrong words. That gives the wrong impression. What I mean is, I had reached a point in my journey where I was feeling like, here's the fruits of my labor. I feel like I've been toiling away. I feel like I've put in a lot of effort. I feel like I'm working really hard and I'm trying to achieve something. In my mind, I'm trying to achieve something. And I accomplish it. And I was at this space while knowing that up to this point and for the last 10 years, I've been guided, and I've known I've been guided. And when I say I've been guided, I mean signs, symbols, synchronicities. I mean downloads. I mean curiosities. I mean a calling. And I mean like literal like knowings and understandings implanted in me. Responses to my inquiries. Ask and I shall receive has been the truth for me. Ask and you shall receive. To me, over the years, if I've asked a question just inside my head, just wondering, the answer comes. And it will come by way of whatever method the universe uses. So it's just a matter of being receptive to those messages and open to that fact that there are signs, symbols, synchronicities. And that what's being shown to me outside of me is a reflection of what's in me. And so it's, just like by virtue of being a human, my brain notices patterns, and noticing patterns is a way to notice signs, symbols, and synchronicities. So anyways, I feel like I've gotten very far with the guidance that I've been receiving over the years. Like, I got out of certain levels of suffering. I was led to and experimented my way into methods of healing. I made up my own methods of healing. I deducted methods of healing. I mimicked methods of healing. I tried and I trained, and I felt progress, that I made in releasing patterns of trauma and just gaining awareness over self, I guess, myself, life, what I was doing here, And also there have been times where I've been led and I've not seen a bigger picture, and I was trained into needing to show faith. And there have been different things for me to learn all along the way. And so this guidance, though, has basically led me. But there have been times where the guidance would be like quieted down because it was a time where I had to step up and really be able to like make the decision without being told. And this is like building my confidence and learning to trust myself and learning to show myself that I have my own back and all of this kind of stuff. So it's like I've been reparented. I've been reparenting myself. And so anyway, all along the way, at times I've found out that what I thought I was working towards was not in fact what I was working towards, that there was some other golden little nugget in the experience that I had, and that I did need that experience in order to get that golden nugget, and that golden nugget was so valuable to me that I wouldn't want to trade it for anything, so nothing lost overall except for that expectation that I had about what I thought was happening. And it's like, oh, that's not what was happening, So I've been humbled all along the way and understood that, like, I don't know shit. And still, it's okay. And still, I couldn't ignore the process of noticing signs, synchronicities, and symbols because I feel like I know too much. Like, I know too much to ignore it, and I know that it doesn't amount to much overall. So it's this delicate balance of whatever, going forward on my path, my journey, and just experiencing. When I'm lucky, I say when I'm lucky, but it's nothing to do with luck. I don't even believe in luck. When I'm allowed, I'm shown a way to make sense of the thing. But more recently in my journey, there have been times where I've had to learn to go forward without making sense of things. Like purposely, when I grill and drill and ask the questions, my guidance comes back with, yeah, you're not going to know the big picture right now, and you're still being asked to trust and go forward with your intuition. And that has been difficult because, at first when it started happening, I'm like, why would I? I have intel, I have guidance. You guys see the bigger picture and you're not going to tell me, But I had to accept and learn that, like, that's my ego. My ego wants to know. My ego wants to be assured that things, my ego doesn't want to humiliate us or make a mistake or, go through unnecessary consequences and, all kinds of human things that my ego is in charge of helping me navigate. Felt like they could be solved through just knowing what was the big picture revealing. And yet I was not being shown that. And it turned out like that was the lesson. The lesson was that you walk like, do you have faith or don't you have faith? Do you have faith in this guidance, or are you only going to trust this guidance when it makes sense to you? And it's like, okay, I've been shown over the years that I should follow the guidance, even when it doesn't make sense to me. You know, there have been times where it's like I've done something because my intuition told me to do it. And I feel like these were in a lot of these cases, it was kind of low stakes things. Like, I didn't feel like it was a big deal if I did or didn't do it, but I did it because it felt like my intuition was telling me to do it. And then I would be revealed something that was very helpful for me to know. For instance, one time I ended up going in another direction from my house to give someone a ride, only to find out that I had to pass by the bar where my boyfriend was with the bartender's tits in his face, even though he told me that he didn't feel well and he was going home that night. And turned out he was having an affair with that bartender. And, I would have never really confirmed my suspicions had I not followed my intuition to give this other person a ride, which required me to go by where I would see this guy's truck, my boyfriend at the time's truck, parked in the parking lot of the bar. It was like things like that along the way. It's like, oh, I'm being guided. I can trust. I can know that, like, if I'm being guided and there's a bigger divine orchestration going on here, I'm safe. I'm finally safe in the world. But unfortunately, it wasn't like that, because a lot of these lessons are painful and harsh. And, it's like I didn't come for some light, fluffy lifetime. I think that that's something that I will experience in this lifetime, and I definitely have moments of that now. But I didn't come from that in this lifetime, and I had other things to participate in as well. What I believe is this is my last lifetime, so I'm kind of finishing up and culminating a bunch of stuff, and maybe I even came in to be a part of other people's experience, as a favor, as a player in their experience kind of thing. This has not been easy for me. It's not like I came in all knowing, I still have challenges, and I still have things that I haven't had figured out, and that's just the way it is, right? Just even if I'm here as like a soul that's done it a long time, for many times over, who knows a lot of spiritual knowledge and wisdom, it doesn't mean I've got nothing to learn here, Hold on, I'm going to pause and blow my nose. So in the beginning of the process of realizing I was being guided and all that, it was really fun. And I had this blind faith, and I felt like I was being shown things that I was like remembering about me and about my abilities and what you can do here on earth and magic and things like that. So in the beginning, it was like I was just being shown all these things, and I would hear a piece of information and then like look it up and then like dive down this little rabbit hole all about it. And that would happen over and over again for a long time. And I was very isolated, and I was kind of cut off from the rest of the world. And I was really like, I was fasting a lot, and I was meditating a lot. I was in touch with nature, just like sunbathing and laying on the grass and just like learning from nature, learning from some sort of guidance and divine wisdom. And trust me, I didn't just like believe it at first. I experimented my way through. But it was such a magical unfolding. And boy, was I so relieved, because up to that point I had lived a lot of traumatic experiences that I was really suffering for a long time in mental turmoil and depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation and and triggers, PTSD, like so much PTSD and CPTSD, and feeling like a victim in life for sure. So that opening into this whole like magical sphere of spirituality was such a beautiful time for me. And then eventually, after I learned quite a bit and, got a good handle of like what some healing modalities were, I was kind of ushered and guided into kind of emerging back into society in a way, like start interacting with people again. And that whole experience brought me a whole other can of worms of like my own suppressed, like suppressed pain and suffering and patterns that weren't active when I was alone, because they were patterns that would show up in relationships. So they were relating dynamics that were unhealthy and that I was downloaded with basically through the way that I was brought up. But like I said, I was brought up in through traumatic experiences. So a lot of it was dysfunctional. And I was really finding myself going from this magical time in my life to where everything was just beautiful and made sense. And I just was so thankful for life and being on earth. And then I was being brought into this situation where I was being rejected and overlooked in some cases and minimized in other cases. And so even where people seemed accepting of me, just to find out that the relationship on offer lacked depth that would be meaningful to me at the stage that I was at, with this understanding that I was having about life and what was possible here. And no relationships that were on offer had that kind of knowledge or even interest in those type magical experiences. And I was brought to people who were like just in very, I want to say mundane existence, which I'm not trying to minimize or judge. I'm just saying, like, without all that openness to magic and spirituality, and probably, but just not in the blatant way that I had been experiencing it, day in, day out, like pure magic, And so I was just like plunked into this very practical, mundane sort of life experiences with, some of the lower density, we'll call them the 7 deadly sins, active in the people around me, which reflected back to me some of those places where I was susceptible to those things as well. And so here I was now needing to like deal with a whole other set of things to heal. But I understood that I was a self-healing being. I understood, that I was very capable and that I just needed to set out to do it. And so I did set out to do it, and I continued on with my self-healing process and uncovered layer after layer after layer of things that in me that I needed to heal. So I didn't like turn back into feeling like a victim of life like I had felt before my magical experiences. I just started thinking like, okay, well, this is reflecting something to me, and what is it, so I can heal it within me. I just took responsibility more and more and more, and really earned my own trust back and began the journey of self-love, because showing up for myself in a way like that, taking responsibility for everything that I faced and experienced, even if it was something negative coming from someone else towards me, because I was reading energy, and there were very pleasant, lovely people, and then there were also people who were acting very pleasant and loving while not being that, throwing shade. And it was really hard for me to because you can't just call somebody out when they're all their friends are around and none of their friends realize that the person is being like that either. And just I was just being faced with, and then you kind of think well, if they are like that, then maybe their friends are like that. And then like, what, where do I even, I don't fit in here, kind of things. But taking all the reflections that I could, and not making it like about I'm better than them, but I'm vibrating with this for a reason. So let me get what I need to know about having these kind of experiences. And eventually got to the point where I was like not vibrating with it anymore, and then came out of the situation and found, oh, I am still vibrating with some of it, but I didn't have to go back into situations like that to resolve the rest of it. All I had to do was remember the situations. And as I remembered and recalled certain energies that I encountered during my time with being with other people at that stage, I was able to heal the things that it was reflecting back to me. And all along the way, I was guided when I needed to be. If I kind of got to a point where I was feeling like stagnant or stuck or felt like there was something I wasn't seeing, I would go to the cards, or I would go to like just asking, or I'd go to astrology and start getting these tools to help me like divine what the information was, what I needed to see. And those were just my tools of choice, because really you could just read anything and get the information you need, which I thought was a cool thing that I had learned from that era of just learning magic, because this is like everything is a reflection of me. So anyway, time goes on, years pass. I feel like, okay, I've made a lot of progress. I understand that I've kind of like scooped out the guts of myself in a lot of really uncomfortable and limiting patterns that cause trouble in relationships, the very dysfunctional types of relating that I had been brought up in, and my ancestry passed down to me. I had alchemized and understood a lot of that, maybe not all of it, because at the same time of kind of digging in my shadow and getting all that stuff squared away in retrospect, I hadn't entered a new relationship, so I still didn't know if there was more to be faced, because I hadn't been reflected back, in an intimate situation yet, and still haven't. So I'm sure, I won't say I'm sure, it's likely that I'll have more, to see about myself when I am in relationship with somebody else. We'll see how that goes, right? Like, I'm not saying, when I say we'll see how that goes, I'm not having doubts about myself. I'm just kind of saying, like, I don't know what it will be, and we'll see. And I'm open to loving whatever part of me shows itself to be. I was just giggling because I was noticing that I was rhyming there. And there was a time period that I used to do that. I used to speak poetically. And I really enjoyed it. It made life fun for me. And it, well, I'll get to this in a minute, but the fact that I was just doing it again is really a turning point for me. And I'll tell you why. Because like I said, I used to do that a lot. It was like I couldn't even think without it coming to me in poetry. Like everything came in lyrical form for like more than a year of my life. And it was fun, because it's like fun to think whimsically and poetically. And also like all these layers that can be put into it. And then I could like read what I wrote poetically and like realize that there was a whole nother layer to it that I hadn't even realized when I was originally channeling it. And I don't know, I just loved life at that period of time. So it was like that magical era. So anyways, I come, I keep along my path and going like I just described. And then most recently, I found that I was kind of having this feeling come over me like, where's the fruits of my labor? Why can't I achieve this thing I want to achieve? Which was basically a financial abundance that I felt like I needed in order to resolve a certain situation in my life right now. And it's to help a family member, to be honest. And I just felt like I wanted to have the financial abundance that it would take to resolve that situation. And with guidance, it was like, well, I'm asking you and I want to know how to do this. And the only guidance that was coming to me was telling me to have fun and to play and to be more lighthearted. And I was just like ready to work. I was just ready to like get it done and do the thing that would make the wealth. And, to add value to other people's lives so that I could get resources. And no matter what, I was still just being guided to have fun. And I have talked about that in some of my other videos where I uncovered certain layers of the reasons why I wasn't able to have fun. And because when I first started getting the guidance, it was kind of like, well, I just don't want to. And like, what would I do anyway? And like, well, this is fun. And it was just like a practical, thing around the house. And it's like, that wasn't good enough no matter what. It was because it wasn't the root issue that I was being pointed at through that guidance being given to me. So what has been revealed to me today amongst a whole kind of unfolding is that the root of that. And I was able to acknowledge a terrified part of me that was hurt over it's sort of like this paradox that I had been in, like an inner war with to play or not to play. And it's because of the way I grew up and the way play was treated in my home. And that is that it wasn't really valued, right? Like my playtime wasn't nurtured and offered or participated in at all. That chores were used as a priority. And I sort of, in looking back, I feel like I was sort of like a slave. And because I wasn't cared about, like what my interests were or what I, liked or wanted in life was never discussed or cared about or anything like that. My family, my caregivers were in survival mode. So that didn't allow them any room to like think about who anyone was. They were just thinking about, getting survival needs met. Do we have a roof over our head? Do we have enough money to eat? So when you're living like that, it doesn't occur to you to check in with who your kids are. But there was one time when play was encouraged, and that is when my parents were doing either marijuana or some other drugs, and we were told to go play. Most part, I think it was cannabis, but there were times when I was younger where other drugs were present. But the biggest thing I can remember from childhood is being told to go play. Go play, go play, go play. So earlier when I was describing this in a video on my other channel, my new channel, juliemandyteller.life, dot is spelled out, D-O-T, I was hearing myself say in my vlog that my guidance was telling me to go play, go play, go play. And I didn't acknowledge it in that video because it was more of a this channel kind of thing. But then I just realized, oh my gosh, that's the thing that my parents would say all the time, and that I felt sort of damaged by. Because it wasn't like it was just like get rid of us. And like if there was it was literally like playtime was literally just used as a way to get rid of us so that they could do what they wanted privately. So there's this opposing view, right? Like I need to be responsible. I need to do what's expected of me, the chores. I need to, do all the things. I need to make sure all the needs are met of myself and the loved ones. And also, like, you go play only when someone wants to get rid of you. So when was there time for me to play, actually? And that's why this like little child part of me that was still in this like weird traumatized loop around play was being activated, but I couldn't understand her. I couldn't understand the issue exactly because it was just this opposing kind of things. It was like play was just play was just like this. Play was a chore. So I was watching a video by a spiritual teacher today, and he was talking about how, what was it? That if you're, see, this is what I mean, is sometimes I can't recall the thing and the breakthrough and I want to document it. And this is one of those things, like I had it earlier, but I can't now recall. But basically it came down to, he was saying if you're judging, you could be using your, here's one thing, aspect that was tied into this realization of my issue with play, is that I had been judging my family for having had the experiences that we had. So above that issue with play was my judgment, and my judgment was making it so that I wouldn't look deeper. And then the spiritual teacher mentioned, like, when you hold these judgments, that it's burning out your resources to stay in the loops and the patterns of those, and that you become what you judge. And he mentioned the resources that would suffer. He said if it's not your time and your money, then it's your health. And I just hacked a big cough, as you know, and it just reminded me to share that part of this with you, because it's like my health has been the thing to suffer during this time where this energy has been active. This energy of needing to resolve the issues I have around play. And it has been pointed out to me over and over again for more than 6 months, maybe more than a year, dare I say, but at least 6 months, where that's been my guidance and I haven't been able to really like follow through. And, I've dealt with certain layers that were on top of it, but I didn't really get to this like kind of little juggernaut of conflicting feelings and information about it, and why I wouldn't allow it for myself. And I realized, like, this part of me that is being asked to play is terrified. I'm terrified of dropping the ball, and I'm terrified of just not being relevant, not being important enough. Like, if I go off and play, no one knows that I'm playing. And I think that's part of why I started that vlog channel, is because if I was going to be having to go off and play and I was going to be doing it alone, part of me didn't want to do it alone. I didn't want to be alone. And I think like being told to go play, and then that meant I was going to go off and be alone. And even though I really liked being alone for many, many years, and this was all suppressed and denied within me, I didn't even know that I had pain around being alone. So I made this vlog channel thinking like, I'll just take a camera with me and it'll be like taking a friend. So it was like I was trying to like get myself ready to do it, and I was trying to like offset the things that I would be pained by in doing it. So I thought that was really interesting. And there was something else I was going to touch on. It just left. Let's see if it comes back. I feel like it was important and vital to the explanations of what I'm saying, too. Told to play for a long time. Oh, I got the basket. And then being able to realize why I wasn't playing, and then finally realizing it was kind of under a bunch of other stuff. And this is the time where it just got loud enough, and I wasn't being able to move forward, right? Because the things that I valued and wanted, I wasn't getting them. And I wasn't getting them because I needed to, this is what it was. I needed to follow my guidance. You know, I've been guided up till now. And for some reason, when it came to this, when I was guided to play, I did not value play. I was terrified to play. But I also just kept telling myself that it was more important for me to work and be responsible and get somewhere and accomplish my goal and get to a financial abundance that would allow me to help my family member in a certain situation that I want to help them with. And I could only focus on that. And so for some reason, it was like it overrode my faith. Fear overrode my faith in this particular situation. And it feels so silly to say that my fear overrode my faith on being told to play, of all things, you know? And the other part of it is that when I just found myself rhyming and speaking poetically a moment ago for just one line there, for half a second, there's an energy to that, right? And I feel like what I've uncovered in me is this playful part of me that likes to rhyme, that will do it to the point where it's corny and annoying and thinks it's fun and funny and will play with words and be dramatic and theatric with words. And I feel like I didn't allow myself that for a while. And I think it's because that wound was getting louder and louder. And it was like the fun, anything fun in me was being stifled until I healed that. And because that's what the wounds will do. They'll loop in a pattern and get louder and louder until they get our attention, and then we are forced to deal with them and heal them. And so anyway, the fact that kind of feeling and to rhyme came back for a moment there tells me that part of me was part of my childlike nature that I'm freeing as I allow myself to play, as I face the parts of me that are uncomfortable with play so that I will play. You know what I mean? I'm doing my regular formula of being present with those feelings. And that's feelings of terror, and that, and I get on here to talk about it, and I am exhausted. I've been crying a lot, and it needed to happen. It needed to happen. So I'm not poor me or anything like that. I'm just saying it's something to process for sure. But it's it's just a piece to my puzzle, probably a big key, in fact, because when I look at my astrology, I don't know, I was just able to get a deeper look into my energy, the Akashic energy, meaning the energy of my soul and the energy of what I'm planning to do here in this incarnation. And it just really unlocked something for me. And also there was a turning point activated in my chart today as well. So I was just seeing it all kind of unfold. And it was also lining up with the downloads that I was getting. And that's always very comforting for me, right? When things start to make sense. But it's one of those things that where it couldn't make sense until afterwards, you know? Yes, last night I was asking, okay, so that's what I meant to say is like, so I was at this point where I was like, why isn't it happening? I want this, this, and this. And I was just being told to play. And I kind of had words with the universe and my highest self. And I was like, listen, you guys, you tell me, oh, I should move towards what I want to do. And then I'm moving towards what I want to do. And you're telling me, no, you got to play. And it's like, that's not what I value. That's not what I want to do. I want to accomplish this. And it's like, so you guide me up to this point and then you're just going to drop me and not guide me into the thing that I actually want to do. And I was getting kind of mad and firm and just saying like, this is bullshit. And then like, I would feel like, I understand there's a bigger reason. So I'd be like, well, could you please explain it to me? Can you please make it make sense? Because my brain will not move past this point until it makes some sort of sense. And even though I knew that wasn't the way it needed to go, after I said that, I started to shift into this place where I was willing to take the steps. I was like, okay, fine. I don't know, but I'm willing to make the steps to. And then like I actually made a plan to play. And I started to feel inside of me of what would be playful to me. And the plan was just to go sledding. And I thought that will be fun. And, it's not responsible or anything. It's strictly for fun. And it was only after I did that the answers were given to me about the bigger picture, kind of unfolded in a few different like locations where I was kind of led to with my curiosity. It was like, oh, this reading or this spiritual teacher and this stuff in your astrology chart, this Sabian symbol, like all this coming together gives you the big picture. But it would only give me that after I took a step. I had to be willing to take the step. And it was kind of like give an inch and then the universe will meet you tenfold. It was like that. So even though it wouldn't make it make sense for me without me taking that step, once I took that step, I was willing to go into the unknown of not knowing why, of not having the biggest picture, just knowing that this is what I was being guided to do and having faith that there was a reason for it. There was a bigger picture view that though I was not privy to, that I had to trust and have faith that I was being led towards my goal in just this way that I couldn't see for some reason, that it was better to go this way. And once I did that, then it kind of was all spelled out for me. And so when I say like there's a turning point for me, like that's the turning point. It's like, oh, I rounded a bend, I got around a corner, and now all of a sudden I can see. I'm like, oh, and now, like, I'm not going to share with you exactly what my Akashic records revealed to me today about my path, but I will say that, like, I turned the corner and then I could see, oh, that's what I'm doing. Oh, I got you. And then it was kind of like, oh, I kind of knew that. It was like this part of me that kind of knew that, but like I couldn't fully acknowledge it in my consciousness because I was too preoccupied with what I thought was the way to go, which was to achieve this thing by being responsible. And that wasn't the path that I was meant to take, and I was being guided the whole time. It's just that for whatever reason, I was that terrified part of me was keeping me from really looking and accepting that my guidance was really telling me to play as the way. I just thought, oh, play, yeah, I'll get to that later. Let me achieve this first. And the universe was, and spirit and guides and my highest self was like, no, play is the way. Play is the way. We're not going to let you achieve this by those methods that you're using. Like, oh, I see. And now I really do see. But before I could see, I had to have faith. I had to make the decision to surrender and be like, all right, I don't agree with this, but I accept that this is where I'm at, that I must go forward into this unknown space for some unknown reason. This is the way I need to go. And I need to trust that this is the way that I need to go, and that this is the right way for me to go, and that I'm going to be held by the universe and caught on the other side of taking my eye off the prize. You know? It's something else. Like, wow. And yeah, that's where I find myself at today. Emotionally exhausted, but in the best way possible. And more childlike than I have been in a while. All right. So, it's 11:11 on the laptop time right now. Isn't that sweet? Special. So here's another thing I'll just add, I guess, onto this, because I just thought of it at 11:11. I feel like what I saw as far as like where I'm going and what I'm doing, it's out of my comfort zone. It's out of my comfort zone because it's out of socially acceptable things. And it's pushing boundaries, and it's I feel like it's a little bit snarky. And it's what it is, you know? So it's funny because something I've judged in others. It's my own version of that, you know? It's not exactly what others have done anyway, so it's just that I can see why I wouldn't have gone in this direction, because I judge people who have a certain kind of humor, and not really knowingly judge them, but just know now that I had a subtle judgment, meaning like I wouldn't have allowed it for myself. And I didn't really want to hang out with them because they did it. Anyway, I feel like that's kind of pointless to say, and I wish I never said it now that I said it. But I guess it was kind of like this warning, which I don't need validation. I don't need to warn. So that was like an old bad habit that came in. So let me just release that, step back into full acceptance and trust for my journey, where I'm going, what I'm doing, and may it unfold in the most divine, best way possible. Excuse me, here's something I can say is, I think the turning point for me isn't just embodying now finally this more childlike version of myself. The turning point for me is also a turning point in my role in other people's lives. Because like it was always going to be that I was going to be a so-called late bloomer, right? I'm a projector, and I have a 6'2" profile. If you know about human design, then that will make more sense to you. And if you don't, it's okay. What it basically means is there are 3 distinct parts of my life, as there are for anyone who is a line 6. And it was always going to be that up until the age of 50, I was playing different roles than I would at age 50 and older. And I'm 49 now. Am I 49? It's so crazy to me that I'm 49. It really, really is. I mean, I can't even believe it. Anyway. Yeah, so I'm just coming up to that point where I was always going to start playing a different role at that time. And age 50, the role that I get to step into is my creative role, like what I came here to do. But before then, I was playing other roles. And part of that role, like in this last era, not exactly, I'll say like it stopped about, whatever. I'm not going to try to define it exactly, but for a bit, I have played a role of, I feel like this is going to sound arrogant to some people, but I'm just acknowledging that I realized that I played the role of giving certain people opportunity to clear their karma. Meaning, I would come into their life, it would kick up some debris of karmic patterns, probably between both of us, but between them. A lot of times it wasn't between both of us. A lot of times it was just, especially if I was in this role, it was something that I could see in them, that I didn't judge in them. So I could be around it. I didn't have to run away from it. And that I could see some rounds of it come out of them. And that my guidance would tell me to continue interacting with them, because I was literally giving them an opportunity to see the pattern in themselves, which played out in my presence, activated by me. So oftentimes it was them putting me in, either projecting on me or putting me in a villainous role or dismissing me or devaluing me or whatever it was. Just like kind of letting myself be a punching bag in some ways. But like it was a favor, like as a soul, right? It was like I have this energy and I can stand this. I can hold space for this, for you to see this reflection of yourself off of me without it taking me down. And so many people who I might have even considered like soulmates, I came in as the one that would allow them to see their karmic pattern and have an opportunity to clear it within themselves, not from me and for us, but within themselves. And even as I go out of their life, they too can recall the situations and interactions we had and still have that opportunity reverberating within them to see it within themselves and clear it. And it's much the same way between me and another like soul connection that I've mentioned on this channel with a man who had rejected me many times, but what he was rejecting, well, I'm not going to pretend to understand exactly his perspective, but I would love to understand his perspective. And I think the opportunity for us was to show each other's perspective and exchange codes so that we would understand each other's perspective, so that the knowledge that we both go forward with in life is that much more expanded. And I was always open to this and trying to have a conversation for years. And it was just never allowed to happen. He would just shut it down and not value it. And I knew that I was in this era of providing people opportunities to clear their karma. And I just thought, oh, maybe he just doesn't choose to. Like, he's not going to. But I always held faith that he would eventually. So that remains to be seen. But that is sort of like, I wanted to acknowledge that one as a separate one, meaning it's that particular one is not grouped in with all the other ones. It's a separate and special one. I just want to say that. Because that one actually did allow me to heal myself and allow me to see reflections of myself and drudge up all the deep, deep-rooted stuff within me. And no one else could have done that because I didn't value anyone else the way I valued this one. It had to be someone that I valued. Even if they didn't value me, I valued them. But, unrequited love is something you heal. It's like you can't just lay down and let it affect the rest of your life like Klaitya. or Ariadne, you got to move on and heal from it and let it be an integrated part of you that continues on in the wholeness that you are, which is including all the other experiences and things you've been through and the wisdom you've gained. Not just the unrequited love, but everything. And then when you put it in the context of that, I am a whole being, the part that is unrequited love is so minor, is so, I don't want to say it's insignificant, but it's not what's ruling the day. Love, okay, so you have the vibration of unrequited love here, and then you have the vibration of love here. It's like they're no match. So when you bring unrequited love into the wholeness of who you are, which is love, it's not the ruling thing. There's no way that unrequited love trumps love ever. If you let it, if you hold yourself apart from love and you hold a judgment against yourself or the other who's in unrequited love, like if I judge a person who didn't love me back, now that unrequited love, I've made it my God. I've made it the top thing of the day, and I have buried myself basically because I'm not allowing the truth of who I am, which is love, which trumps all of that, you know? And the same thing goes for anyone that has been given an opportunity to clear karmic patterns through their interactions with me when it was reflected back to them. Like, there's no judgment here, and you are still love in my eyes. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a scenario that you're entertaining. That's just an experience you're having, and it's just awaiting your integration, or it's something you've integrated already. It's not the whole definition of everything you are, or even everything we are, you know, as souls who made that deal to come in and play parts for each other, you know? I feel like, on the one hand, reducing ourselves to parts is very helpful when we're doing our healing work, but it's not the truth of who we are. And if you don't need to reduce yourself to parts to do the healing work, then don't. Like, if you can just let go of something, then do. You know what I mean? Like, or integrate it in or whatever. But like, we are, like, when I talk about it in terms of parts, like, oh, I'm going to be present with the part of me that felt this, right? What I'm doing is I'm making sure that I acknowledge the humanness of us. And that humanness is something that notices patterns, so we acknowledge. That validates self because we have an ego that needs to be soothed. That accepts the situation we're in because what we resist persists. If we push the energy away, then we're busy pushing it away instead of letting it move through us and integrating it. And then we be present with the feelings that are associated with the situation because we are a conduit where the energy can move through. And we can't resist, we can't like exclude it, right? Like, it's either got to move through or we hold on to it, because resistance is the same as holding on to it. Those are the two options. So when we feel it, it's like being willing to be an experiencer of an experience you're having. And the formula that I've been offering in my videos is just basically acknowledging the parts of being human that may be involved in some of these looping patterns of experience and energy that are waiting to be resolved within us. And just to tie it into what I'm talking about, I resolved in myself today, was this kind of cluster of fears and beliefs about what it would mean about me and what might happen to me if I were to go play. And to be aware, I had those fears which were kind of tangled because they were opposing. Like, if Like just taking care of one of them wouldn't have resolved the issue. I needed to understand like all of it. So being able to do that, I can move through that. Now, I've acknowledged it, I've validated it, like I understand how it could happen because I remember and I understand like the experiences I had that would have made me have issues with it. I accept that this is where I'm at, right? I've already done that earlier today. I accepted, oh, yeah, this is the thing I got to deal with. Excuse me. And then I've been allowing the feelings that come up about it. And I've been letting them be with me as they need to. And what it is like feeling the feeling that I felt as that child version of me, the part of me that felt it. But I'm feeling it, I'm allowing it to be with me as the whole version of me that I am today, that's been through all the experiences I've been through. So it's never bigger than me. It's just a feeling that's passing through. But I'm not feeling it I'm not letting it be with me because I'm trying to make it pass through. Because that's resistance, So, and as I do that, right, as I release that pent up, suppressed and denied feelings, because I was too overwhelmed as a child to feel them at the time and understand them and make sense of the situation that was very unfair and confusing. As I do that, things become more clear because all of a sudden I have a bigger picture view. So when I say I turned a corner and then I could kind of see a bigger picture, that's what I mean. It's like, oh, without that veiling and clouding my view, now I kind of see something bigger. And now it makes sense to me why that was the thing I had to move through. Because I would never have done the thing that I actually want to do here as I enter this next phase of my life without clearing that issue within myself. So that was the thing I needed to do. And, the phase that I'm leaving, which was being an opportunity for others to clear their karma, was just kind of a learning phase of a reacquainting myself with being a human phase, And I think it was opportunity to build connections, but I couldn't build them with anyone who didn't choose to clear their karma. And to be honest, I think there were a lot of opportunities with people who didn't clear it. And maybe now that I've cleared enough of mine, we could come back together if they've cleared theirs. That's a possibility too. So, cool. We'll see what the future holds. And I have a general idea of what it holds. It's pretty exciting to me. And also it reminds me to let myself be guided and to truly have faith and to realize when I'm fighting against what my guidance is saying and realize that, there's going to be a reason for that, and that like it's not wrong. It's okay that I, was defiant and wanted my way and got mad at my guides for not just telling me what I wanted to know. It's okay that I did that, but also like it's okay that they held their ground and just gently reaffirmed for me each time what I really needed to do. And, it's like in a healthy, pure, authentic version of me, I don't have to be told by my guides to play. It's an impetus that comes from within. It's a feeling, it's like I feel like playing, When the poetry comes out, it just comes out. It's not like my guides told me, oh, you should rhyme everything you say for the next hour. No, it just happens because it just flows out of me. It's in this flow space. So what I've done is I've cleared the blockage to my flow space in the aspect of play. So in the future, I can trust that when I'm playing, it's part of my flow. Yeah. All right. I'm I'm going to close it there and let you go. And thank you for being here. And just like I thanked my guides and highest self for sticking with me through my baby fit last night. I don't think it was a baby fit, actually. I think it was more of an adult fit. It was more of a like, listen, you need to make this make sense. And that's not a baby fit. That's an adult fit. So anyway, I thanked my guides, and I thank you for being here too.